Welcome to the Uncharted journey. Today we're going to take a look at trust. This is a hard one for me. One of the hardest things that I've ever had to do was to tell God, I don't trust you. And at first, uh, on the surface, that may sound like a lie. It did to me. Each of you, like me, probably have the initial thought of course I trust God. But as we play that out in our minds, we can say that what it was difficult for me to do was to say it out loud. See, the problem is that I'm a control freak. I know this about myself. I don't like this about myself. I even try to put myself in situations where I'm completely out of control of what's going on and still find myself trying to take over. No matter how many times God has taken care of me and shows up and keeps his promises, I still approach every situation as if all of it depends on me. When things feel like they're at their worst, or when all hope seems lost, many of us turn to God. He's there. He's there for us. He shows up and we get through it. See, if you're like me, when things feel completely out of your control and you feel like there's no options, that's when it seems like it's easy to turn to God, especially when you have no control over what's going on, what may be happening to you, and just the circumstances surrounding whatever it is that you're dealing with. But what about when it's been my own choices that led me to a place that I'm trying to figure things out? Or when everything seems to be just going great? I think those are the times that it's really easy to just leave God out of the picture. I think maybe the hardest part of it is that every time that there's an opportunity for me to put trust in God, then obedience and action is required in order for me to put that into practice. That's how it works every single time, for me, for you, and really every story that we look at in Scripture. It's hard to look at any of those stories and find one that doesn't have some element of trust. See, I love the story of Daniel. You should read it when you get a chance. I'm going to give you some high points as we bounce through this story really quick. But Daniel sets an incredible example of how he trusted in God. See, Daniel, as a young boy, was an Israelite, and the place that he lived was conquered by the Babylonians. He was removed from his home. He was taken to their capital city to be trained to be a royal servant. He was a slave. He had no rights. And yet he trusted God when his actions in trusting God could have gotten him in major trouble, maybe gotten him killed, but he felt like it was what God wanted him to do. And God had favor on him and saw him through a very difficult and dark time, and even put him in a place of prominence in the kingdom of Babylon. See, things became really good for Daniel. And in the midst of a season when everything seemed to be going right, he continued to honor and trust God and put into practice the things that he'd done when it was hard, the habits that he developed. And when things were going good, he continued to do that. This led to some other men around him being very jealous of him. And so they tricked the king into ordering a decree that nobody could pray to anybody but the king for 30 days. But see, Daniel continued to do as he always had done. He took time, he prayed, he talked to God on a daily basis at set times. And people knew this about him. And when he got caught praying, continuing to follow God and spend that time doing that, he got in trouble. The decree said that he would have to be executed for this. And so they brought him before the king, and the king didn't really want to do this, but he was bound by his own laws, and he threw Daniel into a pit full of hungry lions and sealed him in there. Now Daniel must have been terrified, scared a little bit, but we don't know what he said in the process of this happening. We don't know what he said in response. We only know what happened to him and what he did. The next day, The king anxiously went out to check on Daniel and have the seal removed to see if Daniel was there, and found him alive and well. See, the thing that stands out to me in this story, like we've told this story, you probably heard it as a kid, and you're like, oh, Daniel was saved, which was awesome. But Daniel's relationship with God was not on demand. It wasn't just when it was needed or just when things got tough. It also wasn't only when things were going well. It was all the time. See, he spoke to God every single day. And it doesn't say this in the story, but I believe that God spoke to him every day as well. That time over and over and over again fostered an incredible relationship between Daniel and God. And I think Daniel put into practice the wise words of King Solomon. As a boy, Daniel probably heard some of the teachings from Solomon as he grew up and as he learned how to read and to write. And in Proverbs chapter 3, 5, and 6, this is what it says. It says, trust in the Lord completely and do not rely on your own opinions. With all your heart, rely on him to guide you, and he will lead you in every decision you make. Become intimate with him wherever you go, and he will lead you wherever you go. I love the picture that paints. Don't rely on your own opinions, but it says in every decision that you make. But my problem is most of the decisions I make, I try to do on my own. I don't even consider God in them because it's like, well, I got this. Sometimes I forget that God wants to be with me everywhere I go. It says, be intimate with him. He'll lead you wherever you go. And so often I just leave him out of it. But no matter what was going on, when we look at Daniel, he had developed a habit that made it easier for him to trust God when conventional wisdom would have told him to do what everybody else was doing. And because of that, God used Daniel to reveal his own nature, God's nature, to an entire people group and an entire kingdom that didn't follow him. But you know, it doesn't have to be something really big. I'd say that most of the time, I don't really get this right. I take matters into my own hands. I don't consult God. I probably miss out because of it. And this is especially true in the areas of my life that I want to have the most control over. My time and my money. See, throughout my life, I've had many opportunities to trust God with time, to trust God with money or life decisions. And when I look back at the decisions that I've made, when I did consult God and when I did do the things that I thought he was asking me to do, I don't have any regrets in any of those situations. Whether it was times where I thought he wanted me to give money to somebody or to something, and I did, and I may have not ever seen the results of that, but I didn't regret it because I felt like I was being obedient. Or when he asked me to do something that may have made me feel a little uncomfortable, or I might look silly, or I might get embarrassed. No matter what it was in my own life, when I've followed what I think God told me to do, I have absolutely no regrets. See, what mattered the most in all of those situations was leaning in to him and trusting him no matter what was going on. Every single time, it's been totally worth it. Let's listen to a story about trust from one of our own.
And God has truly, one, he gave me him, and anything anybody has. And so that was hard for me. And I know years ago, the Lord spoke to me and, spoke to my heart and told me I was greedy, not only with money, but with my things, with my time, with my resources, all these different things. And I just, how he kind of loved me through that and just kind of opened up my eyes to that he's given me all of these things, that his resources are to the ends of the earth. Like they never run out. And if we are supposed to have it, then if there's someone that needs it, then we were given that money, resource, whatever it was, in order to give to them. And he's given us a few of those people. He's given us a few of those opportunities to help take care of his people, his
We've
children.
also seen money come in the mail that...
Yeah, I mean, we've had times where it was, we were struggling, and he's come through every single time. And I mean, to this day, I'll still be like, oh, this is how much we have in savings, or this is how much we have. And he's like, I don't care, it's there. And I'm like, I know, so I'm still a work in progress.
True story.
Yeah, I'm still a work in progress, but it's getting better. And I can see the fruits of, being able to give. And we do, we cheerfully give. It's an automatic thing. We don't even think about it. We've recently discussed, okay, we need to step outside of our comfort zone, because now we're comfortable in what we're giving. We need to step it up, and we need to, take that step of faith. And I think that, it's just
do more with less.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, to me, it's just, falling into that trusting God and knowing that he keeps his promises, whether it's with, a job, giving, money, resources, whatever it may be, kids, we have a lot of them.
Oh, you do.
So, it's like we got to fall into that trust and know that he's got us regardless. We've learned in the past by not praying about it, not, going to God and saying,
horrible mistakes.
Okay, is this what we should do? Like close those doors or keep them open. Let it be known, give us a sign, literally give us a sign that this is where we're supposed to go. And we haven't done that in the past, and it hasn't, been very good financial decisions. I keep telling him, we've got to be good stewards with what we have, and stuff. And so just learning that stewardship, and where does God really want us to put those extra resources. And we've, seen God come through. I have a medical issue where I need medication. And after we had our son, I, for probably months, obviously through my whole pregnancy, I didn't have this medication. And then I came to the point where I needed this medication, literally opened up my refrigerator, and there was one shot that had fallen in the back. We'd been in the refrigerator for months upon months, never saw it, and boom, it was there. And it was like God had to have put it there. It was not there before. So little things like that, where it's like, okay, God knew that need, and it was there, and stuff. And so
that was a rough nut.
I go back to those moments a lot. And, even when I'm struggling and my anxiety, gets a little carried away and stuff, it's like, okay, Jenny, he's got you, you're in control of my mind, and I have to make sure I go to his word, because what he says is true, and I can trust him.